I want to address proprioceptive lag. Proprioceptive lag is that lapse of time between contact or touch on a specific body part and your brain's ability to fire appropriate motor action through that same neural pathway. At the end of 2017, I had a total hip replacement of my left hip. I was at end-stage osteoarthritis. I had bone spurs all over the head of the femur. It was a mess. The only option was to get a shiny titanium prosthetic in there. And I knew it would be life-changing. I knew that there would be consequences also to being cut open. Wasn't totally sure what all the ramifications would be, and the likelihood that my left and right would ever be the same again was a little bit unlikely. I certainly try to do everything in my power and in my knowledge base to try to help my hips be somewhat similar, but there still is something that I call a proprioceptive lag that lingers in my left hip that I try to address. So this proprioceptive lag showed up on the table with my therapist, with my physical therapist, when she would put her fingers on certain parts of my hip and then ask me to contract the muscle where she was touching. And it would be epochs of time before my brain could figure out how to communicate with that touch. So essentially she was trying to spark my proprioception, my sense perception, and then I was to meet her with correct motor control or correct activation. And it really left me feeling lost in space, lost in my own body. And so this proprioceptive lag is no longer as gap-like, but I do things on a daily basis to address this lag. And some of you might have this from your own histories of injuries or scar tissue or trauma. Some of us might have it just because we're hypermobile. That's been one of my challenges my whole life. So I use the role model balls, and then I use selective activations as a warm-up, as a preparation before I really do really intense work on my hips specifically. So I'm going to show you two different things that I like to do to help with this proprioceptive lag. So for the first one, you'll use a block and a pair of Therapy Ball Plus or Yoga Tune-Up balls in a tote, or even Alpha Twins in a tote. And what you'll do, we're just going to roll along the gluteus medius, because the gluteus medius seemed to be where the most laggy stuff was on me. And so right now I'm just tracing the lateral glute region. And so we're going to do a plow action here on the glute. So this is my left side. And I'm coming to the top of the pelvic bone and letting the balls indent their way in there. And in super slow motion, allowing my pressure to visit and live upon the balls, but trying to very slowly squeegee the balls down to the side of the femur, really towards the greater trochanter. And so what I'm just trying to do here is let the soft tissue know, and let the nerves within the soft tissue, the abundant sensory neurons that are densely peppered in so many different layers of fascial tissue, in the outer fatty layer, in the deep myofascial layers, and then in the intervening layers. I'm trying to let those nerves know that I know where they are, and I just want to stimulate them and pressurize them and start to connect the dots from outer hip to skull. So I'll spend anywhere from 1.5 minutes to 2.5 minutes doing a move similar to this. And then what I want to do after I've done that slow motion plow is I want to broadly activate the gluteus medius as much as possible. And so here's an example of one of the things I'll do. So I've got a block here, and I'm just going to come into a side plank. And notice how I'm really pivoting my ankle. I'm everting it so that I don't collapse and sickle the foot. And integrating the scapula and core, and I'm pushing the ground away, not necessarily with my shoulder, although this is as stable as possible, but I'm trying to push the block down by activating that lateral hip. In fact, I'll exaggerate by activating this and holding this isometric for quite a while. When I start to fatigue, instead of just collapsing, I'll slowly eccentrically descend, letting that muscle be put into a stretch position, and then in slow motion, concentrically rebound, and again, find my way to hold. And I'll just work this as many times as I can until failure. So that's one possibility of really trying to build the contraction map and the felt map back and forth. Now, the other thing that I like to do is to trigger fast responses in the hip. So I'm going to show you on my other hip sort of a fast response, sort of a fast twitch response, and I'm going to think that I'm targeting the Golgi tendon organs here. And so there's a couple of things you can do. You can either, I'll show you the on the ball, just really rapidly, and this is probably what you see mostly at the gym, is people just really sort of, quickly getting their rollout on, but there's a purpose for this today. I don't usually roll really quickly on my videos, but there's a kind of a functional neurological response that I'm looking for here. So I'm doing a really quick scrub, and then you see this all the time at swim meets. People just pounding very rapidly their whatever soft tissue they're trying to target. So I'm just doing very, very fast whipping action, beating the lateral glute, 30 seconds or so. And then I want to utilize that sort of whip-like excitement and do lateral bounce. So lateral bounce is just a lateral skip where I try to land and coil and have a little contralateral action and use really as fast, rapid response as possible. So those are two possible ways to address proprioceptive lag: slow motion with global isometrics, or rapid tapping with explosive movement. I hope that these strategies help you deal with any proprioceptive lag that might be lagging about in your body.